Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Breathcast. My name is Michael Maher, and I'm going to be your podcast host and breathwork coach. And today we have a returning guest, friend of the podcast, Dave Florence. Dave also has a YouTube channel, and it is called The Evolution of Dave. And if you aren't subscribed, you should absolutely check that channel out. And it's been wonderful to know Dave all these years and watch his evolution. It really is fantastic. He's a breathwork instructor amongst many other things that he does. Always one thing that I loved about Dave is like he took a job on the side, gardening, because of the fact that it got him outdoors. It's physical labour and he got him touching the earth, and that's definitely on my list of things to do maybe next year, just to get out. And I did some gardening myself the other day and bloody hell, I'm knackered. So he's in good shape, this dude. So big podcast. We're talking about a lot of things. In particular, we're talking about the new breathwork app that me and Dave are on together. It's known as the Breath Source. So if you don't know about this app yet, where you been? The link is down below. You can get started right now for free. I'm on there, Dave's on there, Jesse Cooman's on there, Michael Biker's on there, Dan Vadney's on there, Ben Greenfield's on there, and so many other breathwork masters are on there as well. This is the first truly global app where a load of breathwork instructors have come together, and they're all sharing their unique flavors and modalities of breathwork. And we get together on a regular basis. I've learned so much from these beautiful human beings about breathing. That's why I wanted to share these podcasts with you, and also why I want to get on this app, because this app is, if you're into breathwork, this is the place where you need to be. You need to be. It's very, very affordable. You can get started for free, and we have packed it full of breathwork content. So you've got so many different breathing techniques, really well organized. And this podcast is going to be on there as well. So the podcast is in there. So you can literally go into this app, you can listen to us, you can save breathing exercises, you can buy the tech that we've approved, AeroFit, Brain Tap, all these wonderful gadgets and gizmos. They're going to be in there as well with good discounts. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link down below. Grab yourself into that app, and I'll see you in there. And this podcast, I cannot wait to share, because Dave is a good friend of mine now. We've become internet friends. We've still not met in person yet, so we still need a cuddle on a mountain somewhere. But for now, enjoy our virtual conversation. Thank you for watching. Cheers. Cool, dude. I've hit record. It's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast. Mr. Dave Florence, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, actually. Thank you very much. I'm smiling because there's a certain group of humans that also call me Mr. David Florence. A group of humans that we've already gotten to know quite well that will come up in this conversation. I love it. I'm not used to being called Mr.
Yeah, actually, me neither. Think about it. And the group of individuals will reveal in a second. They call me Mr. Mike, which I always find a bit like, oh,
yes,
that's a bit strange. Yeah,
exactly.
I quite like it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go with the formal.
Yeah, definitely. So we're talking about Breath Source, which is part of the reason we've got together today. And I think we'll just leave that hanging for a second for the audience, and we can jump back to that in a second. But so it's been I think 2 years since we last had our last podcast.
Wow.
Can you believe that? Yeah, it was like 2020. It was just in the peak of the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah, I was trying to figure out when it was. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, around July 2020. So more than 2 years, actually. I think you're in a different place back then. You've moved locations, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I now live in a beautiful town called Bradford-on-Avon, not far from Bath, in the UK. Yeah, interesting. And well, talking of time, time as a parent speeds up. Something you're about to start experiencing. I can't wait for you to join the gang.
Yeah, scary. So you mean like, because Nina just had a baby shower yesterday, and one of her friends just had a baby. It was like a year and a bit ago, and this baby's already like walking, kind of talking. I was like, hang on, I thought that takes like 5 years to get to that stage. I genuinely thought they were a baby for years, but it seems like it just goes so quick.
Yeah, it really does. And it's all good. You know, there's always humans that tell you about all these scary stories and the bad stuff. There is no bad stuff. You do it with the right mindset, it's all good. And it becomes a learning experience. It's beautiful. It's amazing. So, yeah, you've got a lot of fun to be had. But yes, be mindful of the clock. And I think, which this next statement kind of fits in with what you and I do. It's all about trying to figure out how to be present with this new experience.
Yeah.
Because it can fly by. You've got to embrace it. Embrace this amazing experience that you're going through. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Have fun with it.
I was interviewing a Qigong master yesterday, day before Friday, White Tiger Qigong. I don't know if you've come across them. Very interestingly, first of all, he had to turn the camera off, and I was like, "This is a video only podcast, dude. What are you doing?" And we'd agreed it with his staff, and he goes, "No, it's not that I've got any like issues." He goes, "I've taken an oath not to get famous from my work." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Anyway, so that was a whole other thing that blew my mind. Quite liked that, but I asked him like, "What techniques have you got for like a dad and a newborn baby?" And he's like, Qigong stuff, and he's like, just skin to skin, a lot of eye contact. If you can do it grounded, on the, touching the grass, all that sort of stuff, slow breathing. So so pretty
all
cool.
the things that actually will come naturally.
Yeah.
Ignore any medical advice, ignore any supposed experts, do what feels right, go with your gut. And doesn't that kind of work with everything in life? The more we do tap into this inner wisdom, the more our life starts to flow. And it's the same with anything, I think.
Yeah, we've somehow got through the last, whatever it is, 200,000 years as humans. We kind of already have a lot of it in us, don't we? And we've kind of ruined a lot of it recently with modernity, as they say, all this stuff. And just as we said before we hit record, got this wonderful Zoom. You and I are having this conversation, never actually met in the flesh yet.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Up a mountain. I have a feeling it's going to be up a mountain.
I'd like that. Yeah, I'd like that. What's the closest mountain to you? I imagine it'd be Snowdon or the Penway fans.
More Penifan. Yeah, it's going to be proper mountain. Snowdon obviously is a proper mountain, but otherwise, big hills that look mountain-like will be the Brecon Beacons.
We should just do that. We should aim to meet at the top. We'll start at different sides, and that'll be where we.
Yeah, that would be so cool. That would be wonderful. Cool. And then with a bit of drone footage of us breathing.
Yes, there we go. We need to hire a videographer if anyone's listening.
Whilst doing a Tom Cruise, holding on to a rock.
Wim Hof style. Yes, free solo style. Yeah, good old Mission Impossible too, dude. I've been I've really enjoyed watching your journey the last couple of years.
As I have yours.
Just to see like the growth channel.
Oh, Mike, I've lost you. You've gone quiet.
How's that? Has that come back again?
That's back. Yeah.
I keep touching the wrong button. Let me just play with the audio. I think I put this in the wrong place, so I've got like the audio mixer right next to my crotch. Yeah, because for some reason I thought it was the best place to cable. Anyway, I won't bore people with that. So, dude, just share with us like what are some of the highlights for you over the past sort of 18 months, 2 years in terms of your evolution?
Yeah, so it's kind of happened in two ways really. My own personal journey to improve my health has continued, and it's kind of crystallized in that I pretty much know what to do on a day-to-day basis to keep body and mind intact. And it does involve movement. It does involve rituals. It does involve breathing, of course. It does involve pushing my body, lifting my body, meditating, being mindful, being present, all those sorts of things. It sounds like I've chucked a whole load in, but you can do it in such a way that it becomes a part of your existence, a way of, almost like a motor response in the same way that you do with when you brush your teeth. There are ways of building all this stuff into your life where it's not a chore. And then the other bit is, of course, teaching this. It's all very good me living this life, but I now teach this in a variety of different ways. Some people come to me just for the breath work. That's great. As you and I know, we love breath and breathing and different techniques. And that's one of the things that I'm always learning. I'm qualified as a SOMA instructor, but actually I seek wisdom from anywhere, from all different practices, and I want to keep learning. And then I combine that with flow state practices. So I teach all about how to develop or create the ability to be in that gamma brainwave led brain flow state, as well as I now work with corporates as well, teaching them how to de-stress. You wouldn't be surprised that is quite important right now for those that work in an office. And what's amazing is that I can impart some of this fluffy woo-woo stuff, I say with a smile, to these corporate folk, and I don't see any rolling of eyes. I'm telling them about stuff that a few years ago, I think I would have had people going, whoa, that's a bit much, Dave. Whereas now they're going, yeah, okay, good. Tell me more. What does it do? So that's really interesting. And I think that's an indication of where we are now, given the last 3 years. Everybody is focused on their health. They know that they can't turn to a GP for all the answers. And they do need to not necessarily go as obsessive as I have with my N of 1 research project to optimize everything, but they do need to figure out, how do I improve my health naturally without the use of pharmaceuticals, hopefully. And that everybody's different. We're all individuals. We have to figure this out. We can't just assume that what I say on blimmin' YouTube or you say or somebody else is going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
But they have to experiment with it and play with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I am, and I'm still excited by all this stuff, as I'm sure you are.
Hey guys, real quick, if you're enjoying this conversation so far, maybe you want to click on the link below and come and join us on the Breath Source. The link is down below. You can get started on Apple and Android. All the links are down there. Click one link, get started. You might notice that at some points in these conversations, I refer to it as the Breath Space. Ignore that. We were playing with different names last year. I'm so glad we landed on the Breath Source. So the Breath Source link is down below. I will see you on it. Back on with the conversation. Cheers. Yeah, it's I spent years in the corporate world. I'm still in the corporate world now, actually. I've only got a few months left. But years thinking like, what, I'd listen to all these American podcasts and people saying, get your side hustle and find your dream. And I was like, yeah, it's great. That's more of an American thing. I feel so blessed these days. I get to have conversations with people like you and all that sort of cool stuff. It's amazing. There's so many bits in that you've just said that I really want to pick into. Can we talk about gamma first, actually? Because you just sparked very interest. So I did something recently called the gamma mindset. I don't know if you've come across this.
Yeah,
in
Chris
fact,
Walton.
of course.
I think I might have mentioned. Did I mention it in the earlier podcast?
You may have done, actually. Yes. Because what happened was I was introduced to him by another friend.
Right.
And he said, you should interview this guy, because it's not really to do with breath work. It doesn't really sit with what I'm doing. So no, just interview him. And then we did the interview. And for people that don't know, in fact, it'd be good to get your take on this. He gets you into gamma, and I'll ask you to explain what that is in a second, because you'll do a better job than me. He gets you into gamma, and then you can rewrite your limiting beliefs. So, he asks you questions like, it's safe for me to change, and I believe this 100%. Or parts of me are already willing and able to change, and I believe this 100%. And he's got a few more, and he does this thing called kinesiology, where he can test your muscle. And that blew my mind. I went there, did that, and I actually did rewrite some of my limiting beliefs. And
really brilliant.
One of them was, I don't want to be a dad. I'm never going to be a dad. I don't even want to try and be a dad. But part of me wanted to. And it was like, we went through the resistance, and then lo and behold, 3 months later, little baby's on the way. So, and he did warn me. He goes, be careful. He goes, this has been known to get people pregnant very quick. And I was like, oh yeah, very funny, Chris. Well, whatever,
Wow.
And that wasn't even the main reason I went there. I went there for just the good footage and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, so what's your experience with gamma? And what is it for people? Can you give your explanation of what it is?
Yeah. So different interpretations, really. What you were discussing there with Chris, as you say, largely is driven by this kinesiology, and it's all about the power of the mind, and how that we can rewrite these templates that are hardwired into us, typically when we're children. We develop these self-limiting beliefs. So I first learned about that whilst I was doing clinical hypnotherapy. And his book, Chris Walton's book, is amazing. I highly recommend everybody to read that book. I still have it. I still reach out, to my shelf and read little bits from there. He's also done a lot of work with ayahuasca, hasn't he? And he's had some incredible personal journeys. So an amazing book, The Gamma Mindset. When I talk about gamma, and it is obviously very similar to the way he talks about it, but from the work that I've been doing and researching and practicing is all to do with creating a routine of practices in your day that are mindful, ritual, movement-based, different practices that when carried out over time in that kind of compound effect, you're then optimizing mind and body so that when you start building in something that is also driven by passion, then you will reach those gamma brainwave states when you're in flow. So when I talk about gamma, it's more to do with flow state, and it's in the same way that lots of sports people talk about flow states. Ayrton Senna once described that he and the race car were one. There was no distinction between him and the human and the vehicle itself. You'll hear people talking about entering a football stadium and everything goes quiet, even though you've got thousands of people surrounding you. There's that noise dissipates because you're totally in flow with the game. But you can achieve these flow states doing anything. You don't have to be a professional sportsman or have done 10,000 hours practicing something. It's all about establishing a routine of practices that optimizes brain and body, combined with a passion or something. So this all stems from a chap called Csikszentmihalyi, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, that some of your audience members will know. And it's all to do with when you combine your skill level with interest in that particular activity. There is a kind of a sweet spot, and that's when you start to experience these flow states. In other words, where you could be in this flow state in front of a computer and there'd be somebody tapping you on the shoulder, but you won't feel it. You are totally zoned in. And why it's important is that when you think about the world that we've created around us right now, where we're distracted all the time by the thing I'm sitting in front of, by, other human beings, most of the time we're not in flow. Even if we're doing something passionate, we're still being distracted. And therefore our mind isn't working optimally. If we can figure out how to have these flowing moments in our life, then we're going to get a shitload more done. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
We're going to be, we're far more efficient.
Yeah.
And we're going to be just living in this wonderful state of, ease and being like water, as Bruce Lee would put it. So yeah, that's what that's all about.
Cool, man. I just I forgot to do his name now because everything's just blurring at the minute. But there was a guy I interviewed recently who's not released it yet, and it's like Healing 4D is the company name.
That sounds familiar.
I have to dig out his name in a second. He's one. I've probably heard of the Czech Institute. He's like a Czech practitioner. Anyway, he was saying that and this wasn't really flow, but he just reminded me of this. He said there's kind of like when you kind of on your phone and you just kind of doom scrolling through Instagram or whatever. It was like chaotic distraction or something like that. And then but then when you put yourself in the practice of meditation, breath work or whatever, it was like conscious distraction. I've probably butchered it a little bit, but I quite liked it because you're getting into like a trance on both sides. But one's like a very good trance where you're kind of growing and learning. The one's like just binging Netflix and you kind of but you're not present either way. You've gone off in some way. But I quite like the idea of it being a conscious well-being distraction versus I've just watched 9 episodes of Breaking Bad and I didn't realize what's happened to Sunday.
Totally. It's all about that default mode network, and experiencing something called transient hypofrontality, which is a long description for really.
Say that again. What's that name?
Transient hypofrontality.
Wow.
So it's all to do with slowing down the bit in here, basically. Because this is the bit that's always chatting away at you and giving you negative feedback loops and and tapping into those pre-designed or created limited beliefs and all that sort of stuff. If you can slow that down, the intelligent, more powerful bit of the brain, which is obviously largely subconscious driven, can take over, and that's when you start to experience these flowing moments in your life. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. And you and I can talk about this when we do finally meet face to face, and I'll go through some of the practices, but like I said, I think that there couldn't be more of a need for things like this, for learning how to be present, for being mindful, by choosing to wash up your dishes in a sink rather than using a dishwasher, and then slowing everything down, feeling the water on your hands, all that kind of stuff, just to allow yourself, or to force sometimes, a little bit of present moment experience rather than the distraction that we've always got.
Yeah. For me, like it happened today. I was in the shower and I was like rushing to get the shower done and I was just about to turn the shower off. And I was like, why don't you just wait like 30 seconds and enjoy the water hitting your face? And I was like, and just hitting them up and just being and I was like, that 30 seconds was so worth it, that extra like bit of time. Whereas normally you just rush, next thing. Yeah.
This is it. We're always, you're absolutely right. Which is why sometimes when I'm talking to people and I'm teaching them different practices, I say, right, go for a walk. But as soon as you start walking, dial it down 50%. So in other words, walk 50% slower than you normally would.
Yeah.
And what will happen is that you'll have this direct impact on the mind. And that negative chit chat begins to slow down. So then what you do is you then focus on your senses. You put your hand out, you touch the tree, you breathe in the air, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that slows this down. It's a brilliant tool, for making what is essentially a good physiological practice of walking into something that's psychological as well, the psychological gain of slowing everything down and being mindful.
Yeah, I like that. That's really nice. Yeah, because sometimes you just walk at your pace or walk as fast as you can because you're just trying to get to the next thing, aren't you, or the next place, and not be in the present. No, very interesting.
When you've got, I was going to say, when you've got other humans staring at you, like in the Matrix, that's when you know you're walking slowly, because everybody else walks at a pace. Yes. So if you suddenly walk half the pace of them, they start going, hang on a minute, that's weird. What's going on here? Are we having a Matrix moment?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right, actually, especially if it's like a younger person. Yeah, obviously you expect them to walk. I'm quite lucky because we've got a forest near here, and I take Frankie, the little German Shepherd, twice a day. Just got back before here. I thought it was a nice way to get ready for our podcast, just being in the forest. And you do just walk slower because there's nowhere to, and it's a bit of a loop. There's nowhere to really go. I've got to run out of the clock on the dog because she's got to run the energy out on her. So there's no rush for me. So it's just noticing the trees, and like every day you go back, it's a little bit different because we're going into the fall right now, or autumn. And so today it looked different than it did yesterday because more leaves have fell and the colors have changed and all that. So it is a harder practice for me when I'm in the street because I'm just trying to get to the co-op or something like that, but that's the time. Maybe that's a really good advice, actually. That's the time maybe to slow it down. Very nice. Yeah. So in that line then, mate, what you talked at the start about, like you've kind of got all these practices and you're teaching them to people. Can you give us a little flavor of some of your routines? What does I mean, I know this is ever, and obviously no pun intended for the evolution of Dave here, but this is an ever evolving feast, isn't it? Yeah. What your morning routine, well, I don't know, my morning routine now is very different than it was 6 months ago or 2 years ago. What are kind of some of the current things you're doing in your, not necessarily morning, but like what are some of the highlights of your week of kind of practices that you're pulling together?
Yeah. So that I also do a gardening job 2 days a week. So that's I allow that to be largely physical, unless of course and I quite often do push it. So say if I have pushed it, and let's say I get like a pressure headache sometimes if I've really pushed the physical side of it, because it's not really gardening. I would say I'm more of a laborer. I dig holes, I chop trees. And then what I'll do is I will practice things like Ujjayi breath, because that is a vasodilator, opens up the blood vessels, and then it eases my headache. And there'll be other energy breath techniques as well that I'll chuck in throughout the day on, especially sort of Tumo or Kapalbhati, anything that just, gives me a little shot of energy. But then on other days when I'm either doing stuff like this or I'm working with people one-to-one, then I break up the day. The morning obviously is the most important. So my morning routine usually is wake up, sit with my thoughts without any analysis or judgment, roll onto the floor, do the 5 Tibetan rites, yoga routine, then practice breath work, cold shower, out the cold shower, feel the cold for a little bit standing there naked, and then strong black coffee. If I'm fasting, I don't eat. If I'm not fasting, then I gobble down a lot of eggs and various different supplements. So lots of people keep sending me supplements now, and I'm experimenting with different ones.
Tell me.
So I've been taking now almost 2 years NMN, so nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is an NAD booster. NAD decreases as you age. If you take this stuff, it improves energy levels. That's amazing. I take trimethylglycine, which is good for the liver. I sort of dabble with quercetin, which is especially good for things like through the hay fever season. I take vitamin D3, obviously K2, fish oil, and then people have been sending me some nootropics. If you've come across nootropics, so I've been sampling those.
Any impacts? Because I went with Alpha Brain originally, and I felt nothing. And then I've tried. There's a pharmaceutical grade one my friend gave me, but it basically brought me to the point of almost like quite strong anxiety. So that wasn't modafinil. I think that was.
Yeah. So the modafinil one, I think, is also linked more pharmaceutically than it is plant-based. So I tend to aim for ideally ones which are sort of plant molecules in the main. But yeah, this is it. And this really ties in neatly, doesn't it, with what works for one person won't necessarily work for somebody else. So that's good that you said that, actually, about Alpha Brain, because I mean that's a big company,
Big
a lot
one.
of,
And Joe Rogan loves it, and obviously it's his company, so, but he's biased. But I bought a packet years ago, and I thought maybe it's faulty. Then they sent me some, and I was more than doubling the dose at one point, and I still felt nothing. But then, ironically, my friend who gave me the modafinil, and he's fine on modafinil, he had Alpha Brain twice, and both times violently sick. But he's super sensitive to stuff like that. So interesting. But then I know people that love it. So it's one of those.
Well, I'll tell you one that gives you a little bit of extra energy. Horny goat weed.
I've heard of this. Somebody just mentioned this to me. Tell me more.
Yeah, so obviously you can take it for a variety of reasons. The horny bit of the
it was you. We were texting it. That was you, wasn't it? On WhatsApp. Go on.
Yeah. But it definitely gives me, you can apply the energy to work, and it does give you a little bit of an extra. It doesn't really help with focus so much, which a lot of the nootropics are good for. But if you want a bit of a shot of extra energy to get stuff done, definitely works for me. But again, what works for me won't necessarily work for somebody else.
Yeah. So it's just playing, isn't it, with our own little, like, what does different things do, different breath works at different times of the day. No, cool. So and what are the benefits of the gardening for you? I'd love for you just to share, because I know a little bit from what you've said, but why do you do the gardening? What's the benefits?
Because I hate sitting down too much. So if I am sat down, if I've got a day of doing editing, one-to-ones, this kind of stuff, then every 45 minutes I get down, I do push-ups, pull-ups, I go outside, I go for a walk, and I make sure that I'm not sat down for too long. And I don't like the fact that I'm stuck in front of a computer for too long either. So I do lots of things on those days to counter the negative effects of this blooming modern working society that we've created. If I could live in a community of other humans where we all share skills and there wouldn't be a need for technology, that would be wonderful. That would be my ideal. But you have to make this work for you and not let it dictate your life, obviously. And that's what I do. But the gardening, therefore, is largely the physical, but also there's the hands in nature. So a lot of the gardens that I work with around here are beautiful, and quite often on a hill, so you get these amazing views. And often as well, the nature likes to leave its mark. So I'm always being stung by nettles. I'm always being scratched by brambles. And it's a bit annoying sometimes, a bit frustrating, but there is something in it that I quite like. In other words, that's nature connecting with me. It's sort of letting me know it's there. And so having that as a part of my life is really important, because it does act as a counter to this technology-led life. I do, with the corporate stuff, I do workshops in the real world as well. And that's where I'm happiest. I can do this stuff in front of a computer, but I much prefer being closer to other humans, helping them, in their sort of energy field, as it were. But the gardening, there's always something, and there are tough days, and there are days when you think, blimmin' hell, okay, I think I need to stop now. This is doing my head in. But most of the time, I'm just pretty happy out there, chopping stuff and shaping stuff or digging.
No, digging's one of the best things you can do, isn't it, for like strength and cardio? It's a tough old gig. I've been thinking, when you first told me about the gardening job a couple of years ago, I was like, that's a good idea. And as my day job finishes in the next few weeks and I'm going into this full time, I do feel like I will have a bit of capacity, and I think I need to like follow your footsteps to some degree. I'm not very handsy, but I feel like I could do something outdoors. So
just start growing your own food.
We just concreted over the whole garden with slabs. So
okay, get yourself an allotment.
Allotments are good. There's actually some allotments down the road. Actually, that's a good shout. Just this idea. Have you come across the Earthing movie or Clint Ober? Yeah, dude, that was that blew my mind. So right now I've got I don't know if anybody else is watching can see this, but I've got this earthing sheet. That's
what on my desk. Brilliant.
And I've got one for the bed as well.
Excellent.
And then I've got these ones for my shoes, which I haven't added yet, but they clip around the shoe. I don't know if you've seen them. So even when you're walking down the street, you can be you can be grounded. But when you said that, because you sent a text the other day, we'll talk about breath source in a second, but when you sent a text the other day, and I was like, yeah, you're grounded a lot, and you're not just grounded like I am, which is a bit digitally grounded because I'm plugged into a plug and all that sort of stuff. You're actually touching the earth and all of the bacteria and everything.
Although I can't do it barefoot, obviously, I do need to wear steel toes,
Sure.
which is why I wear Skinner's shoe socks every other day. So when I'm not grounding and wearing those horrible clunky boots, most of the time I'm wearing Skinner's shoe socks. And by the way, that's not a product plug, by the way. I just absolutely love them. These are things that look and feel like socks. They just have a very thin layer of rubber. So this is about as extreme a barefoot technology as you can get.
Oh, cool.
It does mean when you step on gravel, you're going, because it is a bit full on. But yeah, you definitely get more feel, and therefore you just feel, I don't know, obviously we're not going to walk around naked, but the less we have, the more human I feel, as in, and the more we're touching the stuff out there and not being consumed by this, then the more it brings out the Neanderthal in me.
yeah Bit of daylight on the skin, touching the plants, just we're I don't know what the stats are, but we spend like 90% of our time in dimly lit rooms these days, ungrounded, touching technology, the complete 180 from where we were a couple hundred years ago.
Look how ill we are, both psychologically and physically. I don't think as many people would have suffered over the last 3 years had they been in nature more.
Yeah, for sure.
Connecting with humans in the real world, eating food from the earth that's not deficient of minerals. Shame, isn't it? But that's why you have to focus on yourself now. You got to be selfish. You've got to think, okay, given all this, the life that I've created, how do I now start to optimize my mind and my body?
Yes, for sure. It's a bit cheesy now, but Tony Robbins, I really like the analogy of when you're on the plane and they say, if there's a loss of cabin pressure, put the mask on yourself first before you help anybody else, because you'll pass out. You can't help anybody. That analogy he uses it a lot in his workshops, but that is so true, isn't it? You got to put the gas mask on yourself first, because you might have a family you're trying to help.
It's not going to help anybody.
Burn yourself out. It's a funny one, isn't it? I often talk about, like, think about if you wanted to make an animal sick, put it in a dimly lit room, disconnect it from the planet, make sure it's using the phone all the time, put it in bad posture, give it junk food, give it too much sugar, cover it in plastic. The list goes on, doesn't it? It's a bit depressing, really. But as you and I both know, the positive is you can unravel some of that quite quickly.
You can.
With this sort of education.
Those that watch your channel will all be aware of this. They may not be doing everything, but the point is you start with the awareness, don't you? It's a bit like, when an alcoholic thinks, oh yeah, okay, all right, I'm aware now, I am definitely an alcoholic. That's good. That's first step. It's the same with optimizing your health. Okay, I'm aware that the way I've been living is not serving me anymore. I'm at an age, or whatever it is, there's, I'm ill all the time. I feel creaky. I feel like my body can't cope. And I think as a good message, especially, so I'm going to be 50 next year, and I've seen lots of other people turn 50 and have this negative assumption that it means something, that it means I'm less capable now. That's all rubbish. And I think the more you get into this stuff that you and I do, the more you realize that you can invoke almost, not quite the child from years ago, but you can definitely go back to your sort of 20, 30-year-old self and feel the same energy levels.
For sure. I was a right ruddy mess in my 20s. I was smoking and drinking and eating kebabs every day, and I was about 5 stone heavier. And I remember when I turned 30, I was like, shit, I feel younger than when I was 20. That was a really weird one. I watched, they've come across Mark Sisson. He did a book called Primal Blueprint. He was on Rogan a couple of, very good. Anyway, nothing radical you've not heard of before, but he basically says cut out the poisons. So, go organic, eat whole foods, the same things we've come across, many times now. But I did that for a period of time, started walking, not really any other exercise, just walking to work every day. And quickly the weight came off, and I was like, wow, I feel a lot more energetic now. So it's it's a bit of a myth, isn't it? Obviously at some point the hour of time is going to catch up with us, but or maybe not, who knows. You look at people like Dave Asprey and what they're trying to do, and live to like 200 or something ridiculous. But cool, man. Well, so let's talk, before we talk about breath source, we'll come back to this at the end. Anyway, if people at this point in the conversation want to work with you and do more, where do they go? How do they get in contact?
DaveFlorence.com. is my website. And obviously you can find me on YouTube, Evolution of Dave, Instagram, Evolution _of_Dave, or on LinkedIn, David Florence. But yeah, if you just want to message me through my website, just daveflorence.com, and
Awesome.
you'll find me there and the stuff that I do.
Cool. I highly recommend checking out Dave. I love your videos, and all the links are down below, so you haven't got to go very far. You haven't got to even type it into your web search engine. You can just go down to show notes, click Dave's link, and check out what he's got to offer. Cool, dude. So one of the reasons we were getting together again today, it was a good opportunity just to catch up anyway. But let's talk about this this wonderful new thing called breath source. And that's not sources in table source, it's sources in, I don't know, how would you describe it? The source of energy.
The source of a river. Yeah.
Source of a river. Yeah. Different source. And so talking about breath source, so you and I are colleagues now, which is pretty freaking cool. And so for people that don't know yet, so breath source is a new, very cool take on a breathing app. And it's been described by some as kind of the YouTube of breathwork, which I really like. But Dave, I'd love to get your thoughts on what made you sign up, because I'm sure you've been tapped on the shoulder by many a company. So what made you, what experiences have you had before, and
I won't name so I won't name the apps that have been in contact with me, but there was something about the energy of, I mean, yes, the app is amazing. Breath Source is it is going to be an incredible experience for people, because it is going to have everything you need, as far as tapping into your favorite breath master is concerned, learning from them through free content as well as paid content, but also discovering all these other incredible folk out there, and having a real deep dive into breathwork. But for me, actually, what sold it was actually Travis and Josh, the two people behind it, and actually the team's bigger than that. I should say that, but I don't think I've ever been involved with anything where the energy of the people and the intention behind this business is so powerful, so positive. And I'm not being deliberately overly gushing here, by the way. I'm British, so that's not what we do. I mean that authentically. This is genuine. I was taken away by them and their sort of authentic presence, and what they're looking to achieve. And then, of course, realizing that they had the big breath cheeses out there like you, and all the others out there, I thought, wow, this has got to be so. I want to get on this bus.
Yeah, it was when I first met with Travis, who's the I gotta get this right, I think he's the COO, and there's the guy Josh who's the CEO. I'm not sure what the difference is, but they're both big wigs in this company. They're just lovely people. They do this thing called conscious capitalism. Travis helps homeless people in America get skills, build houses, but also they do breath work, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's so cool. And yeah, just the idea that there's all these different breath workers, because I was thinking like YouTube's like a bit of a wild west. You can go on there and you can find anything, you can find 1,000 ways to use bleach, or 10,000 ways to use vinegar, or whatever it is. And the same is probably true of breath work. But what I like about this is there's a bit of a vetting system. And so it's not every single breath worker on there, but people have gone through a process so they could find the best people that are teaching breathwork right now, that have got kind of the education behind them and the experience. And like you've just said, it's like you might go there to see you or to see me, but then you might find a Michael Biker or a Jesse Kuma, or a SOMA Breath, obviously your SOMA, or Wim Hof, or whatever. Those sort of things are potentially within that app, which is really freaking cool. And so you might go in there and just start your breath journey with one of us, and then just start to expand out to all these other areas, which is really cool. So if people are interested in that, the link will be down below. You can get yourself signed up now, and then once that's, depending on obviously when you're watching this, you might watch this 1,000 years in the future, and obviously it'll be out by then, but if you're interested, click on that link below and get yourself signed up to the mailing list, and we'll let you know when that's live. Dave, just a very weird tangent there. Do you ever think about the content you're putting out now, and the fact that your great grandchildren might get to watch you talking?
I don't think about that, but of course now I'm going to. Now you've put the seed in there.
Yeah. I forget I was talking to you the other day, but I was like, that's really freaking cool. I've never thought about it like that. Because imagine you could go and watch like your great granddad at 49 and him doing something on. You'd be like, wow, what
that's true.
And,
so get a real feel, won't they, for who we are?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't. And And that's only going to get more, isn't it, as the years go on? 3D. Anyway, that's a real tangent, mate. We absolutely need to do something in real life. We need to find some time next year when my day job's finished, and we'll go meet somewhere and do something. It'll be a real pleasure. And people, please get in touch with Dave. Have a look at his link. I don't recommend that with everybody, but please have a look at Dave's stuff. He's a great chap. Dave, I've got a couple of last quick questions for you. I'm trying to add a little segment towards the end of the podcast, not put you under too much pressure. Simple questions. What's one book you'd recommend for people to pick up and have a read?
The one that I have sitting by my bed, along with The Power of Now, that obviously everybody needs to read, in my opinion, is Letting Go by David R. Hawkins. And it's particularly, I'd say it's useful for everybody, but when you think about how we're driven by these negative statements every day, typically, and they could be to do with anything, your job, your relationship, what's going on in the world. When you learn how to let go of these thoughts in a positive way, this book teaches you how. And it's obviously, it's pretty simple, by the way, but it's deliberately repetitive throughout the book, because how we learn something. It's a bit like when you do a corporate workshop and you come away and you go, yeah, those are amazing tips. And then a week later, you've forgotten them all. You need that repetition to make sure it sticks. And that's how this book really works. It applies this technique to every facet of your life. So there's going to be chapters in there that totally relate. And I like I said, I just have it by the side of my bed. I just, before I go to bed, before I sleep, and by the way, I'm one of these annoying people that if my head hits the pillow, my brain says, right, it's time to go to sleep.
Oh, nice.
I can't really read. So therefore I know if I open the book, I've got probably a couple of minutes before I start to fall asleep. So I just open up at a random page, and every single time there's something that either hugely relates to something in the day, or may be something that, I've given advice elsewhere to somebody else, but there's always some gem in there.
Very cool. Just remind me the title again, because I'm going to pick that straight up.
Letting Go.
Cool. Thank you very much.
By David R. Hawkins.
I'll link that down below for people. And this one's a bit cheesy, so forgive me. You're stuck on a desert island and you can only bring one breathing exercise with you. What is it and why?
Okay. Probably something parasympathetic. I was going to go with something energetic. But actually, I think given that there could be elements of high stress, where do I get the next bit of food?
Yeah.
I think something parasympathetic, and maybe something like, is box breathing too obvious? No, we'll go with dolphin breaths. So dolphin breaths, again, is sort of a holding your breath technique. It increases your carbon dioxide. That calms you down.
Oh, can you show us that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's all you're doing really, and I'll talk you through it rather than sort of guide you. All you're doing is start the way you would normally, with any kind of breath experience. Nice deep inhale, exhale slowly with pursed lips. Then you take a big deep inhale through the nose and you hold your breath for 25 seconds.
Right.
Then you exhale really slowly through pursed lips, and then you breathe after you've exhaled. You then, for about 30 seconds, you breathe normally, preferably diaphragmatic or belly breathing. And then the next time you take another deep inhale and then hold your breath for 30 seconds. Exhale, pursed lips, breathe normally for 30 seconds. Then the last one, inhale through the nose, hold your breath for 35 seconds, exhale, pursed lips, you're done. So it's just this gradual increase. And obviously what you can do, once you get used to this, if you do it daily, then you just keep increasing by 5 seconds. It's a bit like, doing Russian pull-up systems, where you're sort of increasing by 1 pull-up. It's the same kind of idea. You just add a further 5 seconds to each section. But you'll always have the same effect. And there's lots of things you can do in that breath work that I play around with, clenching the Mula Bandha, adding a smile to your face all the way through the breath experience that has this psychoneuroimmunology idea, when you changes your psychological state by creating a positive a physical action. So there's loads of things you can play about with it, but keeping it simple, 25-second hold, 30-second hold, 35-second hold, exhaling pursed lips, and through each one.
Wonderful. So dolphin breath and letting go. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Some lovely recommendations there. Thank you,
you're
mate.
Done. You're sorted.
And you're done. That's it. You're done. So any final words to close us off?
No. I think that's good. I ought to mention, actually, if you are watching this and you're a yoga instructor, breath worker, myself and my brother created a database called the wellnessdatabase.com.
Mm,
And the whole idea of it, like IMDb, Internet Movie Database, that's what we're hoping to create.
cool.
But purely for wellness practitioners. And it's a way of showcasing your YouTube, if you are a practitioner, your Instagram. And it's just a way of being able to deep dive. I want to find out about breath work. Who have we got? Oh, this guy looks really cool. And then you go in there and then you recognize him being connected with somebody else. And more to come with that.
Awesome. What is it? The wellness
so the website is thewellnessdb.com. So it's the wellness database.
Awesome. Okay, we'll link that for you as well. Cool, man. Absolute pleasure. Always. Doesn't feel like it's been 2 years. Feels like it was a couple of months ago we had the last chat. So time's a funny old thing. Thank you for doing this, and I'll see you on the breath source. Yeah,
see you there.
Cheers.
And in person.
And everyone, thank you very much for watching. Click on Dave's links. See you all. Cheers, Dave. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. I need you to do just one thing for me. If you got any value from the episode, please click on the link in the show notes or down below in the video description and go on over to the Breath Source. Come and join me on the Breath Source app. Me and all these other wonderful breathwork instructors, you can get started for free today. We have put our life, our heart, our soul into this app. There's retreats in there you can go on. There's teacher training. There's every breathing exercise you can think of, all taught by their own breathwork instructors with their own flavors and modalities and training and experiences. Come for me and find Jesse or find Kat or find Travis or find one of these wonderful human beings in there and come and play with the breath with us. So the link is down below. I hope to see you on there. This podcast, the Breathcast, is also in there. Ed Harold's Life with Breath podcast is also in there as well. So we want to make a place for you where you can find our breathing exercises that are on YouTube, as well as new stuff, as well as live stuff, as well as new breath friends, a real community, a real hub for breathing. So I'm so excited about this. I cannot wait to see you in the app. The link is down below. And I will see you over on the Breath Source in 2 seconds. I'm going to hold my breath and I'm going to wait for you. Go, click on the link. Have you clicked it yet? Hurry up. Please. See you on the Breath Source. Cheers.